we're actually very happy to announce that we're going to be dividing our Alpha 1 into 2 phases. The first phase is going to be a way for us to get a lot of players into different arena modes and test out our castle sieges, test out our city sieges, test out large player battles, raid versus raid, guild fights, and we're happy to announce that that first phase of Alpha 1 will be launched early in Q4, this fourth quarter of 2018.
First, shout out to the Ashes community. Love all you guys.
Woo!
On the Discord, they're all great. When can we expect Nodes Part 3?
That's a deep one right away.
Send nodes.
Thank you.
Nodes Part 3. So actually one of our team members is not currently with us here at PAX, and his name is Tristan Snodgrass, and the reason for that is because he's currently back at the studios working on Nodes Part 3. So soon, trademark.
Cool. Go ahead, man.
Hi. So just wondering, how do you intend to keep the community cemented from somebody that just started playing the game versus somebody that's they've been in, late game or end game for weeks?
It's a great question.
That's a great question, and it is oftentimes, in my experience, is a problem that a lot of MMOs have, is that those starting areas become just kind of vacant of players, and it's so sad because the greatest aspect of an MMO is that community that you get to experience. So one of the great things about the node system is that it really works from a new player acquisition standpoint, where these nodes tend to develop larger near the starting locations, areas around the world, and it brings these players back to those locations if they're citizens and want services within those cities. So as new players enter the world, they're going to actually be surrounded most likely by more population because people are coming back to those larger nodes. In addition, we have certain systems that will relate kind of in a way towards a mentorship program that upper level players are going to be able to benefit from partying and or helping certain lower level players and getting them situated in the game.
Yeah, I mean, part of the whole experience with nodes, right, is that there is no real end game in that the world is constantly shifting every day, right? Month 1 is going to be really different from month 2, and that's for the level 50s and the level 1s. So that sense of what's new is going to be the case for any new player who comes. They're going to be able to participate in these systems and make difference from day 1. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a different MMO. You're not going to feel the same way as a level 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a quick question. I'm wondering if on a server there's enough like level 50s, let's say, that get together and make one node their permanent home, and enough players want to move around and there's really no one to contest that strength. Do you guys have any systems in play or systems in mind that might be able to counteract that? Something to keep it balanced for newbies and experienced players when they want to change the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the thing about nodes is that you can declare citizenship to only one node. And when you declare that citizenship, let's say your example of one guild perhaps wanting to kind of take all their members and have them all declare the same citizenship to a location. The longer a node exists, the higher the prize it is to take. And some systems with regards to crafting progression and or rewards and bonuses, or the reliquary that we haven't really touched on a lot, those systems are going to be so enticing that from an incentive standpoint, it will compel other groups to either potentially break alliances or siege the city in order to take the goods that are potentially in it. So from an incentive standpoint, we have that at play. Additionally, we don't have a cap per se that we've announced yet on the citizenship aspect of being in a node, but we do have soft caps. It becomes costlier the higher number of citizens each time a new person wants to join to be part of a node. So there is sort of a soft cap on how many citizens one node can have, and it might be that not all in the guild can participate in that area. So there's kind of a natural divide, a pseudo-faction, so to speak, between who is a part of that node and who is not. Additionally, last thing, we have conditions that you can set between nodes with regards to either nodes being friendly with each other and acting trade alliances, or they can declare war on nodes, similar to how guild wars may function in different games where those citizens become hostile to each other based on the player government that's elected in the particular node. So those systems all kind of cater to allowing conflict that's meaningful and that also provides a non-imbalanced relationship between stronger guilds and not as strong guilds.
Another soft cap we have is the number of non-instance housing.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
So players might want to declare to another node just so they can have a house.
That's absolutely right.
Thank you.
Cool. Cool. Great questions, guys. Keep going.
Hi. So I'm sure everyone in this room is going to love and enjoy this game, but we all want to do different things. I think it's important to kind of figure out a balance between what people want to do. Because there's going to be people who want to just do the exploration, or they want to do they just want to sit and role play in cities, or they want to do PvP. You know, they want to do all that stuff. So how do you guys plan on balancing all that to see like who is it going to like tilt more in the favor of the higher demand, or is it just going to try to be all one together thing?
This is something that Jeff and I actually talk about a good bit. There's a guy who wrote a book on game design called Bartle, and he breaks gamers up into different categories. And so we will often talk about the different categories of gamers and trying to satisfy their needs. So like we're like, oh yeah, we could do this for explorers to get explorers more engaged in the game, or we could do this for socializers to get them more engaged. So it is something that we're paying attention to. I don't think that we will necessarily go towards higher demand because it's hard. It's hard to tell what's demand and what's just like vocality, but yeah, we'll try and address all those gamer types.
I think the most compelling design argument for how those different sects of gamers interact with each other is dependent from the design standpoint of interdependencies in the systems. So, for example, if as a raider or as a PvPer you're looking for the best gear, you're going to devote your time towards leveling up and going out and participating in the things you enjoy, like PvPing, perhaps going for caravans or sieging cities and castles and all that type of stuff. If you want the best gear, you're going to have to rely on a person who's devoted their time towards crafting, potentially. And they may not be a PvPer, but they have a place in your wheelhouse because you need their services. And then that crafter is going to need person who is either a gatherer or plays the economy as a merchant in the nodes with the auction houses that are regionalized. They're going to have to, that person's going to have to work with a person who specializes in trade that takes caravans with either mercenary groups or other guilds that are PvPers between the nodes to get the resources they need. Building dependencies on different groups or factions of players that exist within a large world like this MMORPG is what kind of solidifies the bonds that allow for them to exist either harmoniously or at least in a way that they know you need those types of players.
Yeah, just to, I guess, add a little bit, is that all of those players make an MMO what it is, right? Again, an MMO lives and breathes on its community, and we don't really want to give short shrift to any one of those types, right? All of them are important. The RPers are important. The people who just want to hang out in the inn and talk are important. They all add to the game, and so we want to make sure that we take care of all of them.
And you want to give them a home in the game from a system standpoint as well, right? Like
a meaningful home.
Exactly. And for example, you're talking about our peers, like our tavern games and taverns, right? And the freeholds and building up those narratives that players can direct. And
you can run a business based on RPing,
yes,
which is really cool.
If I think it's the old phrase, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, people will use it.
If you build the systems that entertain or play towards certain groups, they will come and they will play.
Yeah, the other thing is that most people aren't just one type, right? Yes. So having those other things built out and well supported means that, like, if you want to do something else, instead of going to another game, you'll just kind of do more of that in action, right? And so, yeah, it's to our benefit to make that as robust as we can.
Yeah, good question.
Cool. We may have to go lightning round soon.
Okay, sorry.
So lightning round. We do lightning round. Go ahead.
So you talk about how you want your world to be meaningful and have the players have an impact, and I think that's really ambitious and really awesome. But I was wondering how you're planning to balance, for example, casual players against very hardcore players. How someone who
for example, would be able or willing to only spend 5 hours can compare in meaningfulness to the world to someone who spends 25 hours and up in the game?
You want a lightning round that?
Sure. So because of the node system, because everything reacts to what players are doing, casual players are still impacting that, right? They still have access to the same systems that a hardcore player does. They might not spend as much time, and obviously they're not going to get as much benefit, but they will still have an impact because what they do will be necessary for the health of the server.
And not only that, but like, you know, from an event standpoint, there are events that are happening in the world, in the game, that you won't need to be a hardcore player to impact and join. For example, the triggered events from the PvE standpoint against the cities, the trades of the caravans, those natural battlegrounds that exist, the castle sieges you can log in for. You know, there's a lot of systems that are at play where a person can simply log in, participate, have fun, be impactful, and then log out.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Keep going. We're going to go quick. We got to get everybody in.
So about that Starfire set. No, what you said that you want the world to change and the nodes to change. Are there any systems that are going to in place to prevent gaming the node system? So say a guild or a collection of guilds decide that they want a node in this specific section because they know that dungeon, they know that boss, they want that loot from there. So they siege a city and then intentionally gather at a specific node to build that up because they've heard elsewhere that that's a better node than the other.
That's gameplay, right? Like that's cool. That's not something that we necessarily need to fight. We just need to make sure that that's fun and balanced for everybody else, right?
Yes.
So we're trying to look at that from a different angle.
Yeah, when you say game the system, I interpret that as working in a way that we didn't intend. And if a system, if an opportunistic group of people come and they spend hard amount of time working on, benefiting from either a location that's near that, dungeon or whatever, that's them actually playing the system, not necessarily gaming the system. But I think if we're referring to systems working in ways we don't intend, we have a lot of back-end metrics that we are watching that are built in from an early standpoint in the game that when we're live, we'll be able to watch and make sure they are working as intended. And if they're not, we'll have fixes for them.
Yeah, we have a lot of levers to move to make sure that, if something's too easy, we can turn it down. If something's too hard, we can turn it up. Right. And we can do that almost in real time.
Yes.
So if nodes end up not shifting hands as much as you think, you could up that, like NPC.
Yeah, we can increase the decay rate of a node.
Yeah, and
how much taxes contribute to the decay of that kind of stuff.
I mean, the way that the systems are being designed from a balancing standpoint, we're taking into account how we would like the nodes to change per se, right? How often. And we've designed attrition systems for certain cultures that may have more dominance over others. These are things that in alpha and beta we will be testing and watching and making sure that our objective is achieved from a gameplay standpoint. And if it's not, we'll come back and recalculate.
Cool. All right, we're going to go quick, try to get everybody in. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm curious about more of the culture and the lore.
Mm-hmm.
You did go a little in depth about how it's going to be, we'll be exploring it through the ancient ruins and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Will they be more advanced things like botany or being able to explore more in depth, more specific things about the game? Or is it all just going to be us creating history and culture?
No.
Yeah.
No. There's a.
Sorry, trying to be.
Go ahead.
There's a lot of history to discover, right? It's not going to be just players writing the stories. We're going to be writing plenty of stories and ways to sort of discover what has happened in the world, how to deal with what's happened in the world, and how to move the world forward.
And I think that where this question is stemming from is oftentimes, in real quick, in game development for MMOs, you have had studios that have released these kind of quote-unquote player-driven content, and it ends up being no content or not fun content.
Very true.
And what we've understood from the get-go is that we're going to have to make a lot of content. And we're prepared for that, and we have a lot of source material to work from, and we're very, very happy and excited to do that. So there's going to be meaningful choices that open doors to content you're going to love.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Next, we got.
My question regards the nodes. What stops people from abandoning one to go to a better one instead of sieging it?
Nothing.
There's no disciplinary thing to leave a node.
There is a cooldown period on your declaration of citizenship, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and eventually if everybody decides to leave a node, that node will decay and be reclaimed by the wilderness.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool.
Hi.
One of my favorite parts of EverQuest 2, which many of you had a lot of work in, was the alternative ways to advance your character outside of killing monsters, gaining levels. The alternative advancement systems, the little flavor things like killing orcs to gain enough lore to learn to speak Orcish and things like that. What can you tell us about those sorts of things that you plan to bring to Ashes, if anything?
There's a bunch of different systems. There's the religion system, the organization system. There's sort of like your racial progression in terms of your class. Artisanship, right? All of those things are sort of independent of your main class. So you can raise those outside of just your, what EQ2 would call your adventuring class. So there's a lot of different things to explore and things to sort of gain levels in.
And there's a comfortable balance of linear progression, you know, like with regards to your characters, maybe level progression. You know, those things all house different experience factors that give a viable way forward when it comes to actually that linear progression. And I think that's important because you offer players then the opportunity to really focus on the things that they enjoy rather than being pigeonholed into something they don't.
Hi, I was wondering if in the future you guys had any plans for open, like, accepting of player-made mods or add-ons, maybe to change the UI or icons on the map, or if players would be able to make any of these things.
UI maybe, but...
Not like content, not like content, more like people who are more focused on like PvP or things like that. Like they might make it so the health's in an easier spot to see with all their buffs and things like that, mainly for like the competitive aspect.
Well, I will think with regards to UI, ours is going to be very customizable in and of itself. That's our objective for UI. So with regards to seeing where health is at and stuff like that, that's a different story. But unlocking different APIs for people to get like DPS meter. Oh God, I'm sorry, I just said that out loud. But we don't want things that divide. And sometimes when you give some communities the agency to make those things, it facilitates the division.
There becomes haves and have-nots.
Right.
Like there becomes sort of like an external meta on how you play the game.
Right.
And we want everybody to play the game in sort of the same way with the same tools.
And I guess another thing about that is we're not necessarily, our mind isn't made up necessarily with regards to how this would work, but we will watch as we go through alphas and betas how this happens and come up for a decision. That's not a difficult implementation. It's something that we can do, you know, after.
Yeah, we can flip that switch anytime we want to, but it's whether or not it's good for
Thank you. Cool. We got like 4 minutes, so we'll go lightning speed.
I have a simple question. A lot of MMOs have like a history and legendary characters and stuff like that. I'm wondering how Ashes is going to stack up to that.
Cool. Good question.
Yeah, I mean, lots of games have a lot of content because they've been out for years and years and years and years. They have a head start on us, and there's no real good answer to that other than the fact it's a new game, right? There's a lot of stuff to discover. There's not going to be any dearth of content. There's going to be plenty of it.
Another aspect to that, I totally agree, but also, we do have heroes in our story, right? We have those named characters that you will read about and even potentially through some type of, well, I don't want to get into that, sorry. But I almost let myself slip there.
4 minutes.
4 minutes, sorry. So yes, we have legendary characters, but it'll progress.
And also more of those characters will come up as you play the story and it'll be people you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the biggest appeals to open world MMORPGs is the fact that it contributes to a lot of player interactions. What are some of the things that you've learned from the successes and failures of previous open world MMORPGs like Arcade or Black Desert?
Oh, that's a very long question.
We can all go into that.
Oh boy. I'll just answer my I guess top three. Is one, listening to the community and being real time in changes. And I'm not talking about the creative vision of the project. I'm talking about specific practices that people don't like. Two, we want progression to matter, and we don't want to undermine that progression by offering a cash shop that's going to give these pay-to-win / gimmicks towards monetization.
Right.
In an MMORPG, economy is extremely important, especially for us, that matters. And the last thing, we want players to be fulfilled in what they do. We don't want the rug to be pulled out from under them later on by some major change that's going to kind of trivialize the amount of time they put into the game. So those are my top three.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Good question, good answer. All right, we got 2 minutes. Go.
So let's be honest. The amount of classes you guys have is ambitious for balancing. My question is on crafting. How flexible are you planning to make the crafting to balance out all those classes?
Pretty flexible.
Pretty flexible, but one thing we do want to make sure about crafting is that when you're a master of a particular aspect of the crafting, you're a master of it, and it's meaningful in the world and other players. We don't want everybody to be a master of everything. We want your choices to have some consequences, and we want them to mean something. So otherwise, pretty flexible.
Yeah, like the individual sword that you craft, if you're a master swordsmith, right, you'll have a lot of flexibility in what the end product is. But yeah, the flexibility in terms of which class you end up as depends on, yeah. It's good.
No, you're good. Just saying last one.
Thank you. Yeah, last one. I'm so sorry. Here's my role for panels. The three of you guys who've been waiting, come up after the panel real quick and talk to the guys and ask your questions. That's always the best method. But go ahead, last question.
All right. So let's be honest. Player housing is extremely difficult to do. In games like Arcades, you run out of land in 24 hours. In games like Black Desert, player housing is boring to somebody who, like me, who only plays 3 hours a week. How are you going to keep player housing and player land accessible, usable, and enjoyable?
So, go ahead.
We're going to end on that one.
Real quick.
So one of the things is that we kind of help to maintain what land is available based on one plot of land per character per account.
Right. We call it our freehold system. So
Freehold system, yeah.
just real quick, there's 3 types of housing. There's instance housing that's developed by governments within nodes. They can build an apartment building, perhaps. It might have a certain quota of apartments that are available. People can do that. Second, there's static housing that exists within a node. That is, you see a house and you buy it, and you can buy it from other players. The third is the freehold system. The freehold system is limited 1 freehold per account. It is a parcel of land. You may build infrastructure on it. You may build housing on it. You may build business on it. Those things kind of...
it's a big piece of land.
It's a big piece of land. What we do to avoid things like a land rush or making it more accessible is that these systems are tied to the development of nodes, and nodes change. They can be destroyed. They can de-level. They can level up further. It's not going to be, I log into the server day 1, I need to run to this spot and get a house because it's the best spot, and I don't get a house there, I'm screwed. It's instead I need to go out and build the world before I can build a house. And I may not know which node is going to develop to stage 3 where housing becomes available first. So, and there's no fast travel where I can just instantly teleport across all the land like that and get there and rush it. So it's more strategic in planning for players to see and kind of follow where the development happens. And if they lose out, there's opportunities elsewhere in the world for you to do it again.
Or siege that node down.
Exactly.
Awesome, guys. I'm going to let the guys make an announcement now. So since you guys have been so patient, the questions have been fantastic. I'm going to turn it over to Steve. Go.
All right. So I know we're pressed for time, but we have been very satisfied with our pace of development so far. We've been hitting ahead of schedule internally on a lot of things, and we're actually very happy to announce that we're going to be dividing our Alpha 1 into 2 phases. The first phase is going to be a way for us to get a lot of players into different arena modes and test out our castle sieges, test out our city sieges, test out large player battles, raid versus raid, guild fights, and we're happy to announce that first phase of Alpha 1 will be launched early in Q4, this 4th quarter of 2018. Right now, as some of you may know, we're in what we call our Alpha 0, which is our pre-alpha testing phase for us to get a lot of back-end systems up and to get a lot of core functionality in on the node system and how that relates to narratives and dungeons and spawn populations. We're also happy to announce that everybody in this room will be getting an Alpha 0 invite. I will say that on behalf of the team at Intrepid Studios, it is an absolute privilege, pleasure, and honor to be building this game for the community, for you guys. It is no short pleasure for us to see the reaction as we're developing this game. It brings sometimes some tears to the eyes. It brings a warm feeling to the heart. And you know, as passionate gamers as you guys are and we are, it is exciting for us to be moving this genre forward. And we couldn't do it without everybody's help.
For sure.
So thank you guys.
Thanks everybody. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
That was
There'll
great.
be some sign-up stations outside. We have 3 iPads. You'll just need to give your email address for the Alpha Zero invite, and we'll see you guys outside. Thank you all very
Thanks,
much.
guys. It was great. Come down to the show floor and play it. It's not hard to see